Well, we got a big one here today. This is a 16.5 by 5.25 inch deep walnut blank. I purchased it from our local Windsor plywood. They also sell live edge slabs and lumber. It had been air dried. When we measured it, it was under 10%, but after rounding it off and cutting some pieces out of the slab, I've got a couple of cracks that started forming here and there in the pith. So I decided to, instead of waiting, get it up on the lathe, get her round, see if there's something worth coring. And if we can't core it, I'll at least anchor seal it up and we'll twice turn it later. But it's still pretty dry on the outside. We'll see what we look like when we get down in it, but it's a big, heavy blank. So let me see if I can get it mounted up here by myself and get a free spin on it. And after I remove the dust collector system, it looks like it's gonna be bouncing on it. But we'll see how tight we can get it. Let's see if we can get it up there. I have the back marked off here with a center point. So once I can get that on here, and it's just a matter of getting that up here as well and seeing how true we are. Okay, it's gonna be a tough one. A little flatter back there. That looks pretty good. So what I'm gonna do here is turn the lathe speed all the way down to 0 before we power it up here. And then I can kind of get a vibe for how to round it is, or if I need to readjust. So let's just slowly spin it up here. Start to feel a little vibration here. Around 6, I could probably push past it. But if we keep it right here at 5:30, no vibration. So I think that's a good place to start. Now we'll start with the Carter & Sons wood beater on this one. All I really want to do is get it nice and round, establish a tendon, see how deep a couple of these cracks go. But I mean, this is the biggest dry piece of walnut I've had in my turning career. I'm lucky to get anything close to 16 inches, to be honest. Even when I mill my own lumber, generally the trees I get out here aren't that big. At least the ones I can move myself or have someone drop off for me. So let's reposition the camera and set that up. Looks like we can keep the dust collector on, which will be nice. And so I'm gonna pull you around the other side, set us up with a decent shot so you can see the whole process as we get to rounding this off. Okay, standing behind the camera, I like that angle. Hopefully it'll give you a good shot at what we're doing here. And we're just gonna go ahead and get to it. I'll move that trash bag I was storing this in out of the way so we don't slip and fall on that. But aside from that, I think we're good to go. So let me get around the other side of the camera here and let's get to turning. So the Carter & Sons Mike Mahoney wood beater, fresh edge. Just want to pause a moment and just see what kind of cuts we're getting. Now, I don't think this crack's going to be as deep as I was afraid. Might go ahead and try to flatten off this bottom real quick while we're here, but we wait till we get a little further in. Yeah, that's going to be some pretty wood, isn't it? Hear that little knot right there that we were looking at? So this is we'll have to decide if this is a filling, if we're going to fill this after we get further up. Oh, look at the color there. Oh, nice and smooth except for that, that tough knot there. Just keep working our way around till we have something around to work with, knowing where we're at. You can see how this is chipping away at the edges pretty seriously. I know a lot of production turners, which I am not, stop, keep moving their tool rest while the lathe's spinning. I have found that to not be always safe, and it allows me to stop, look at my cuts, evaluate, if there's anything happening that I wasn't aware of from the feel of the tool. As we hit the air, especially with the wood beater, you can really feel it. But it does take off a lot of material at one time. So we'll join these two grooves and keep getting around. And just give it a little push cut this time. And here right there where we're starting to get the back into the air. Now I want to see if I'm actually hitting a crack or some flats. So we're still hitting flats right here, so we have a ways to come in. This crack wasn't giving me any trouble, it's the flats. So just keep working our way up until we get a perfectly round shape, and we'll measure up, see what diameter we end up with. Hopefully I feel like I mounted it well enough to maximize the wood that'll be there. I think I'm actually gonna work on just a mean round first. Get rid of those points that are flying around. It's going to give me the best chance to get out a less aggressive gouge. Very dusty. That might end up having to be filled with some turquoise. She's always pretty on walnut. I was hoping we turn past it a little more. This little knot here, it's got some radial cracks as well. And it cuts in quite a bit from where the chainsaw was, so still some ways to go. We'll see where that crack ends up by the time we get there. Trying to get some nice curls off of that. Still flat here. A lot of our crack going away though, it's getting thinner. Still think we're going to be filling that. Yeah, that wood beater takes a really nice flat there where that chainsaw mark is. Really like the cut I get off this tool when it's sharp right. You see how I went from a more of a shaping, refining cut to a big bulk removal cut, and it all held together nice. Still not ready to touch that while it's spinning, but we're round over the crack now. So all the way up to this point in the bowl, we're round, and it looks like we've established our final dimension. So we are going to have to deal with this really large crack here. So I'm going to probably want to clean that out with a Dremel. These I'm just going to lay some. Oh, there's lots of spider webbing up here too. So this probably will polish up nicely. After I round this a bit, we'll take another look at that. But yeah, it's going to cut beautifully. We're just going to have a lot of rustic details left in this one, it looks like. So I'm going to come back out here, try to finish off this round. And I think I'm almost ready to get out the crown gouge for this. And that's what I'm going to do here. Move away from bulk removal to something a little more controllable for me. It's 5/8 inch with a swept-back grind. Just flows a little nicer for me than the bulk removal tool. See how close we are to getting an established rim. Oh, we're close, pretty close. Still have one little flat spot up here, so we know we got to take that down a bit. One there too, so that's one. Yeah, let's. I'm gonna actually pull around now from the bottom and start working towards the shape. This is got a very large bowl. I'm hoping it'll be a nice big salad bowl. This one might be for our own family. I just want to see what happens if we get around that knot. Hear the knot? Ejected my tool right off of it. But now it's getting smooth. Still there, so that's going to definitely be a filling project. And that's open knot and open knot there. Okay, let's take it from that seam I made here, or this line where I stopped, and go all the way to the top and see if that gets us out of the gets us fully round. That did not feel like it's going to do it. See, the crack's starting to disappear a little bit. Big one up here though. That's a shame. The whole bowl would look like that, huh? Quite a bit of tear out right here. Interesting. Wobbly there. That's right on the edge of where I was trying to establish a little bit of a rim here. Quite a bit we can still do up here. I just wanted to see how that's cutting there and what's causing any of the bouncing. There's a little bounce. I think it's happening off of this crack. But it did smooth out some of this up here. I might take one final pass with a very sharp tool. I'm going to go ahead and finish creating this. Okay, I see where we're at. A lot of that material is going to go. I'm going to try to continue to create a rim up here. So I do think a rim on a bowl this size is always nice. The bottom of that rim is going to work. Okay, under that. Clean that up. This will come down when we turn the bowl around. Okay, and this here still isn't cutting real nicely. That really tore out here. So I wonder if we're a little punky, because this is the same exact wood as on this side. We've got a much better cut over here. There to here, right through it. Okay, let me I'm going to work on the bottom here a little bit more. Let's get us a nice big heavy tenon down here. Use the big one-way stronghold jaws on this one. We have a fairly safe flat surface coming together. You can see we're still low on this side and in here. So I'm going to have to take a little more depth off the bottom. Okay, at least we're round. We're not flat yet, but we're round. Let's go around there. Fillable. Still maybe come up in a little more of an angle. Let's get that tenon marked out. Pencil's good enough here. Let's just go in the center. About to there. That should give us a nice tight tenon. Sure we got that right. A little bit larger than we needed, so that's good. That noise is this crack when you're using a scraper. So I'm just looking for flat, looking for tight. This is going to have to be a little deeper, especially with that crack in the middle. So I'll pull a little of that material out with the scraper. And using a very pointy skew I use for my dovetails, I'm going a little bit deeper, clean out it nice and tight. So the way we have it established now is we've got 1/3 of our diameter is the foot. Go with that, that's not bad. That tightened up. And looking at our profile, now all we have to do is join these two curves, and I think we'll have a very nice large shape, large form here. Nice shearing cuts. Would be one of my videos without the dog chiming in. I'd be tempted to fire up my Richard Raffin scraper and see if I can scrape this walnut a little bit, get a little better cut. Okay, so I think we're at a spot now where I need to clean up these cracks and fill them, and that's going to take quite a bit of time. I won't keep that on the camera for the most part. Could also could put a couple butterflies in here, but I think that the turquoise will end up giving me a better look. Go ahead and get out the cleanup tools here and clean out these cracks. And when I get ready to fill them, I'll bring you back over if I make a decision on what to do there. You can see how some of this turns great, some of it not quite as good. So let me give it a few minutes to clean up these cracks and pack this up and see what it'll look like if we get some turquoise in it. Okay, I have some crushed turquoise here, and that came from New Mexico, and I've already cleaned out my cracks and put a little thin CA in them to seal up the pores. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work some of that turquoise in to those cracks using thin and medium CA. Get you guys right over it so you can see the work, I hope. And then we'll continue to put little layer after layer. And as the crack gets filled up, we'll go a little proud with the CA glue in this particular case. Since this stuff is pretty pricey, I try to do my best to not waste any of it. So you really just have to kind of work it into the crack. But it's such a fine crushed turquoise that as you do that, it'll get into the pores too. So we're gonna end up having to churn away some of that for sand to sand like crazy to get rid of it. I've tried a couple of different things. I've tried using putty knives, but what's worked the best is just literally laying it into the crack, filling it up. It'll soak into the crack further as we start putting CA in there. But I try to fill one crack at a time, trying not to waste any of this stuff. Like I said, it's pretty dear cost-wise. Probably not a word people are used to hearing, but it's pretty dear. You can see how it gets into all the little empty pores on the ends there. So I'm going to start on just one flat spot there. And then I'm going to get the thin CA out. And like normal, I use a Star Bond. It's the only CA that I really have had consistently good luck with. And they support a lot of our local wood turning clubs and stuff. So, see, I wanted to go away from the turquoise. I got to get right in there and just slowly go over it. That's going to soak into the grain there, and we'll be okay with that. We're going to turn and sand around this. This stuff is filled deep into the crack. When we have a gap that we don't like the way it looks, we come back, we'll add some more CA. But all we want to do is try to get to sink down into the crack itself with that turquoise. Because we can fill over the top of the turquoise with CA and give it a very nice look. Again, that was just the thin CA. Now I don't spray any accelerator on this when I'm doing the inlay, so I'm gonna have to let that sit and wait up. But it's a lot of rinse and repeat of that same thing. You're gonna see me build up an embellishment here, a decoration to fill this crack, one step at a time, slowly, layer after layer, so we have something very nice that'll polish up beautifully. And when we take another final passing cut, it should clean off these top fibers. It'll only be maybe 10, 15 thousandths soaked into the wood, has been my experience. So I'm going to finish filling this one crack up here first, and then I'll move to the other side. But I just want to make sure you have a chance to see exactly what it is. Well, it's been a couple days since we've been out in the shop working on this walnut bowl. It's actually, if I can angle you down here and take a look, it's on camera, you know, it looks pretty good. It's got some lovely grain right here, beautiful swooping figure, little dust on it still. As you head this direction though, you're going to see all these little micro cracks that started showing up. Now, they could add a little rustic flavor to it. I don't know what I can do about this. This wood is slowly doing it. I can kind of feel them loosely under my fingers. The texture turned out nice. We still have a perfectly smooth finish over our turquoise inlay we did here. And I burned a little detail up here in the top. But I think what I'm ready to do now is to turn it around and see if it can be cored. If I can get something out of the inside of this, is a big blank, it's 16 inches. So if I could pull that around and maybe get a core or two out of it, it might not be a complete waste. It's definitely not going to be a gallery piece, but it could be a very, very nice large utility piece once we get down to it. Like I said in a couple of my social media posts, this one's really been kicking my booty. I got like one half of the blank was absolutely perfect, and if I had known what was happening deep in the wood near where the pith used to be, I probably would have cut this into probably 6 smaller blanks, and it would have made a really nice set. But you never know until you actually get into a piece of wood. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this around, get it set up, and we'll see if we can make something, some kind of save out of this. If we can flatten the top off, get one nice core out of it, I think
it will have been worth the investment for such an expensive piece of wood. But if not, at least we'll have a big utility salad bowl around the family table, I guess. All right, let's get to it. I like to go ahead and put the chuck on while it's here on something this heavy. Make sure that I have a good grip all the way around, that's sitting flat. This isn't the heaviest thing I've turned, but it's heavy enough that it's kind of, as a one-man show, it's a little difficult to get these things up and down. So we'll go around and I'll just pull out the stock over here. My little live center. Put that away. And see if we can get this beast to thread up there easy enough for us. Not so bad. As you can see from the front here, we have a lot of extra meat. The blank was not quite flat. When I see this over here, I'm like, oh, that's what I was hoping for the whole thing. Just this beautiful, beautiful walnut. And then you move around. Our filling's okay, but boy, these little micro cracks around the growth rings just don't look that good. So I'm gonna spin it up. I'll reposition the camera so we can get a good look at the process here. And I'll get my safety gear out, blow everything off with a little compressed air before we start, so we start out clean, sharpen up some gouges, and see what we can do. Okay, I think that's a pretty good angle. Looks like we can see almost the entirety of the bowl there. So let's see if that'll make a good, let's see what we're trying to accomplish here. I do have my long sleeve shirt on, tightly wrapped around my wrist right now. It's been in the 30s in the morning, and right now it's only 62 degrees in my shop. So I'm going to go ahead also and remove my tailstock center here because it's got the little pointy point on it. Although we could, I don't think it'll be in our way to go ahead and take that little extra security of having the tailstock in for something this large. Can't hurt. And I will reposition my tool rest a little bit outside from under that. We've got good clearance. You can see that's a pretty good gap. That's about a 1-inch gap there. It's going to take a while to flatten that out. I'm going to turn it up slowly. Looks like we're running pretty true. Just about 600 RPM. Freshly sharpened bowl gouge. This is my favorite crown, my go-to gouge. Make sure we're locked in place, boy. I wanted to grab right away. Still catching a little air. Let's see how we're doing. It's going a lot faster than I anticipated. Just look how beautiful that wood is. What a shame that we got some of these other defects in the timber. I know that's the old story about, hey, life's too short to turn bad wood, but this was, I very rarely buy blanks. I usually turn my own. This happened to be a luck out. I think I mentioned it earlier with Windsor Plywood in town. He had a big slab, big thick walnut slab. He was willing to cut into some blanks for me. So I took a flyer on it, hoping I'd get some nice dry, some kiln dried lumber here, but it seems to be a lot of tension in the wood. Interesting to see how that acts when we get in there. There you go. Very pretty. So I'm hoping that what's inside here will escape some of these other cracks when we take a little core out. A little core is still going to be over 10 inches, I think. Nice flat surface And I'll bring this down to a tenon, so when we take the core off, we'll have somewhere to grab it. And the way that that's taken a cut, I think I can probably get a nice flat surface on the front here by scraping with my Richard Raffin scraper. That's probably fine though for doing coring, but I was going to get one pass on there. Famous last words again. Right. There we go. So we can see in here, I'm going to get a pencil, mark out where our cracks are, so that we can try to get this next piece out of here as close to defect free as we can. It's going to end up being quite a bit of wood waste. It looks like it's right about there. You know, we'll have to turn this other section down and fill some more cracks. But our second bowl from here, you know, will be 10.5 inches. And still have a little bit of a bump in the middle, but that's not going to impact coring. So yeah, we're at 10.5 for our secondary bowl, which seems like a pretty good compromise there. Now I'm going to go ahead and, seeing everything's turning true, I still have a nice tenon back here, but I want to just give it a couple tweaks here before we get out the coring system. And I'm going to have to obviously sharpen up my coring system as well. I don't want to risk anything. It takes quite a while to set up the bowl saver, but I don't want this to end up on the floor. So I'm going to go ahead and set up for coring, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to take a look at that. Well, there we go. Let's go pick up that core and see if we save something good out of this bowl. Yeah. A little rough around the edges. Oh, that's what we're going through. Interesting. Oh, let me take this around and show you. So inside the bowl, we had this big bark inclusion. So we were getting a nice ribbon cut and then hit that. And we also find out it is very wet in here for kiln dried wood. This is pretty wet. That might be why I'm getting cracks and all sorts of whatnots happening to me here. Let's see. That's my moisture meter. All right. 20%. Oh, geez. 18.5 there. And under 10 on the outside edge. So there sums it up. So I'll have to talk to the fellows at my wood supplier and say, hey, for a kiln dried slab, we're soaking wet on the inside, guys. But we did get a pretty decent saved core out of this that I'll have to wax up now. And it came in at 10 inches. And our depth, I'm going to call it 3 1/4. After we put a flange of a tenon on the bottom and turn that up, we'll end up with a nice 10x3 bowl that'll match this one. If I had known this was that wet, but oh, look at that. Here's the knot we were fighting this whole time. And some weird grain there. Well, let me pull down the coring system, put that away, snap a few pictures of this, and contact my wood supplier and see what the story is here. And then I'll turn this down now. I'm going to turn it to 1.6 inches, a little thinner on the bottom, and put it up to dry. It's going to have to be twice turned, being that wet. All right, let's get to that. I'll be back as soon as we're ready to do some more cleanup here. Okay, we're set up again for traditional old turning. I've marked where 1.6 inches is. I'm going to flatten off this rim a little bit and then work on cleaning up the inside of that, getting a uniform wall thickness. So when we actually do hit the drying rack, when it comes back out here, probably in 6 or 7 months, it'll be ready to go. Some weird little catches that I don't quite have a handle on. Remember, these are just roughing cuts. We're just trying to get our wall thickness uniform so we can put it up to dry. It makes me really nervous about all of the good stuff we did there on the outside. I think a lot of our fillings and our inlays and stuff, maybe we'll see how it dries. Some nice big heavy wet shavings out of there. Let's see where we're getting past that knot. Yep. The crack goes all the way through. That's the crack out here that we put the turquoise in, so that's going to need to be filled. See if that tear out's going to go away. Still hitting that knot. Yeah, it's not cutting clean on that end, so we'll try both directions here. Let's just clean up that inside. Here's all we really need to do at this point. Hear that? Yeah. I have to get a scraper out and see what's going on there. Hitting this feather. And we're hitting this crack here that runs through. Starting to feel a lot of, you can see where the bouncing's happening. So this is one of those situations where I have to ask myself, do I just edit the heck out of this and make it look like a bigger success than it really was, which I know some people do, or do I just go ahead and share with you the whole process, which I think is why people watch, is kind of to get the process down. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you want to see the mistakes, or you just want to see the recoveries? Feels like just after getting that weight out of it, it's not running true anymore. Got a nice tight tenon. I don't see any gaps up here. I'm going to give it another squeeze just to be safe. Yeah, there's nothing there left. Okay, I'll get out a big scraper. I think I'm going to go for my Grizzly Pro. That one's been doing a great job for me. just want to clean up the little stuff in here. Okay, so you see we've got this nut here. It's giving us a bounce. Just a lot harder piece of material. I might have to actually get a carbide in there, and a little knot over here. But we've smoothed out most of the trouble spots. Now all I have to do is clean up that bottom a little bit so it doesn't dry funny, and we should be ready to put that up on the shelf and let it dry. Dancing fuzzies. That's where our main tool dug in from our coring exercise. So in my opinion, and after watching a lot of guys I consider to be professionals, trick is just not to take too much. Nice sharp scraper with a good burr. Just take those little ribbon cuts. You can feel the flow. Using the tip of a scraper like this, you can really feel what's happening on the bottom of the bowl. You can also see how much moisture is there by how it's fogging up with the temperatures in my shop. Keeping the handle elevated so I don't get a catch. So right there is where my little lump, so obviously maybe a final turn on that. We'll get it. Okay, and now I'm going to use my feeler gauges here and just see if we've maintained that wall thickness. It really feels like we have. A little thinner on the bottom, which is what we want. Now we're going to have some interesting figure in here, for sure. I'm going to have to deal with this big monster after it finishes drying, but I don't see any other. Yeah, that's going to be it. We have some really interesting stuff happening with some of these. The other option I have, and I might shoot a video over to my friend in the UK. He used to live in Portland. His name is Jubal, and Jubal likes to turn them thin and just let them warp and do whatever they want. I think for something this big, I could still end up putting a really nice inlay in this rim if I let it go and then undercut that a bit. But I think at this point, this one needs to be put up on the shelf, dry out a little bit. Not happy with the moisture content in there. I'll probably put it in a paper sack, stuff some shavings in it, see if it'll dry off slowly. We'll keep measuring that moisture. Anyway, I appreciate you guys joining me in the shop today. I'm sorry that this 3-day project gets stalled out at the end, but it just goes to show you never know exactly what you're going to get. You can see our dead center is that little nub there, and we did get our grain lined up just beautifully to go along the center of that bowl. The ring's coming out. So this comes down to probably 3/8 of an inch, maybe a quarter. A little heavier on the bottom so it doesn't tip when you put food in it. I think it'll end up being a really pretty heirloom bowl. It's just not going to be the gallery piece that I was hoping for. So again, thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you could leave me a comment down below, like it. If you share the video, man, it means a whole lot to the channel. The way the algorithm works, it's all about engagement. So even if you didn't like it, leaving me a negative comment helps the channel, giving me some feedback. Surprisingly enough, it's just engagement with the audience that tracks these algorithms to get this channel growing. I'm enjoying doing it. I hope you're enjoying watching them. Again, thanks a lot. Thanks for stopping by my shop.